I can hear him in my mind right now going, look, guys, listen, there's so much, we've got to get stuck into, 2 races in, the controversies that are there. And he'd be so happy and so proud for you and Anne and your management of Oscar that off the back of a difficult Melbourne, he bounced back with what he needed in Shanghai. And he'd be getting right in amongst having an opinion on Liam Lawson, the fact that it's been announced that he'll be being replaced for the next Grand Prix, the 3rd Grand Prix of the year. Where do you think he loved all that controversy, and sometimes would surprise you with the point of view he would have? My gut feeling is that although he would be ecstatic for Oscar, he'd be disappointed for Liam, but he would also understand that, as you've always said, Mark, Formula One isn't a finishing school. And right now, for whatever reason, Liam looks like he needs the heat taken off him. So do you think he'd be going, that's the right decision?
Liam Lawson's F1 future just took a huge hit, and Red Bull's second driver problem is worse than ever. Check this out.
I think he would be, mate. Yeah, I think he would be going, he needs the vice released because he's going to have a chance to cool his jets a bit, go back to the smaller team where he's got some experience with already. As we know, he's only done 2 races with the big team, but clearly it looks so challenging. Max is the only one that can extract a lap time out of that car. I mean, Sergio for certain races last year is now looking like a magician. So it's interesting how just what they do there. I mean, it's as you know, mate, like a few tenths, 3 or 4 tenths is a huge gap in our business. But Liam is not connecting with that car, so hasn't connected with that car. Can he go and just find his feet in their career and get going again in the smaller team? And if Yuki doesn't fire up in this other car, what happens then? What happens with then? Like if if they're all on the ropes, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic. But I think also what Eddie would have called out, mate, he would have loved this one, wouldn't he? He would have asked you, DC, both of the Ferraris being disqualified. How is that possible? Like on his watch, running it as a team boss, that would have been quite, he would have had a brilliant opinion on that one too, for 2 different things, which is really bloody unheard of, isn't it, mate? So that was, that blindsided a lot of us as well. But, yeah, no, he'd be in there, mate. He'd be ferreting around, causing chaos with, with as you say, with Oscar having an awesome result, and then obviously the Lawson scenario now that Red Bull find themselves in to try and have 2 drivers contributing to the performance, let alone just the points wise, but actually having Max. Like there has to be some corners where the second driver shows Max a way, but there's no contribution to Max. He's literally carrying that whole car himself.
The difference between a good driver and a great one is the ability to adapt, and Max is proving that every weekend. While others need time to settle, he instantly understands the car and maximizes its potential. His ability to extract every ounce of performance is why he's the focal point of the team. But at some point, Red Bull has to ask themselves, how much longer can they rely on just one driver? If their second seat keeps underperforming, it could cost them in the Constructors' Championship battle. They need a reliable backup for Max, or they risk falling behind.
It's so confusing as an ex-driver to try and understand the difference in time. I've had some difficult times in my career where you lack confidence. In my case, if the rear of the car wasn't stable, it was very difficult for me to build the lap. But it was never the sort of gaps that we seem to be seeing. Max is obviously a phenomenon. Yeah. But we've seen other phenomenons throughout the history of the sport. Your Sennas, your Schumachers and the likes. And they never had the sort of gaps. Okay, someone could absolutely say, Senna was over a second quicker around Monaco than Prost for 1 year in qualifying. But that was in a time where the McLarens were regularly a second and a bit quicker than the second row anyway. It was a different era. Formula One is incredibly close right now. But, between a great driver and an average driver, you should only be looking 2-3 tenths. It should not be, almost a second.
Max's ability to extract lap time is on a different level, and the gap to his teammates proves it. While others struggle to find consistency, he delivers every single session. The fact that in an era of such tight performance gaps, he's outpacing his teammates by almost a second speaks volumes. This isn't just about car setup. It's about a driver who has mastered every element of modern F1, from tire management to high-pressure qualifying laps. That's why he's the best.
We're looking at 2 or 3 tenths per sector, mate, at the moment, as we know, and that's just completely unacceptable. As you say, it's I don't know. I mean, I see it like it's like Marc Marquez when he left Honda. I know there's not everyone on this podcast might be into MotoGP, but it's a similar thing when this Marc Marquez engineered his way into like riding this motorcycle over years, and also on motorbikes, as we know, DC, that if you aren't comfortable or something happens, you can actually, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are, you can injure yourself. So for a rider to get confident or not be confident on a motorcycle is like if Liam Lawson was the equivalent on a Honda now, he'd probably be bloody injured because he couldn't find the speed because he'd actually be down the road. So when Marquez leaves Honda, no one can ride the bike. So actually, that's the interesting thing also with Max. Who knows how long he stays a Red Bull? He might be there for another 3 or 4 more years. But the team also have to get this car usable for not just one person on the planet.
Yeah, no, it's a big challenge for them, and we wish Yuki Tsunoda all the very best, and of course Liam Lawson as he gets an opportunity to rebuild confidence. And in a Racing Bulls, that if we look at the performance of it in the first couple of cars, the first couple of races seems to be a reasonable car. So hopefully he will rebuild his confidence, and we will watch with bated breath, as I'm sure. If you believe in an afterlife, I'm sure EJ will be watching and throwing down some opinions.
Max Verstappen's ability to extract pace from the Red Bull is unmatched, and the data proves it. The gap between him and his teammates isn't just down to talent. It's about how the car is engineered to maximize his strengths. Over the last few seasons, the team has refined the RB19 and RB20 to suit his driving style, and that means anyone stepping into the second seat is immediately at a disadvantage. We've seen this play out time and time again. Pierre Gasly struggled, Alex Albon struggled, even Sergio Perez, who looked strong in early 2023, has been wildly inconsistent. Now, Yuki Tsunoda is stepping into one of the hardest cars to master, and it raises the same question. Is Red Bull setting up its second driver for failure? If every driver except Verstappen finds it impossible to get the most out of the car, then maybe the issue isn't just the driver, it's the team's entire development philosophy. Yes, having a car that fits Max perfectly makes sense when he's delivering world-class performances. But F1 isn't just about having the fastest driver, it's about maximizing team performance. If Red Bull doesn't find a way to make the car work for both drivers, they risk losing the Constructors' Championship battle, especially with Ferrari and McLaren closing in. One dominant driver can win you races, but a competitive second driver wins you titles. Just look at how Mercedes dominated with Hamilton and Bottas consistently scoring big points. Red Bull can't afford to ignore this problem for much longer. They may have the best driver in the world, but unless they start thinking about the bigger picture, their reign at the top could be in danger.